Hey everyone, today I thought I would do a little video that I haven't done in quite a while and talk to you about books I've been reading recently. I had a little bit of a slow period at the beginning of this year where I kept starting all these books and not being able to finish them, just not getting into them. I don't know what it was really frustrating. So there were probably 10 books that I started and got 50 to 100 pages into, and I was just like, I'm not getting this, I'm not enjoying this. So it took me a little bit of a while, but I feel like throughout March, I really kind of got back into my groove with reading and found some really good books. Quite a few of them are graphic novels, there were a couple of non-fiction books and a couple of fiction books, and today I thought I would just talk to you a little bit about a few of the highlights and the stuff that I really enjoyed. The first ones I want to talk about are two books that I did mention on a live stream as soon as I got them, and they are volumes 4 and 5 of the Adventure Time graphic novels. Now, I know I'm a huge child, I get that, okay? I fully accept my childlikeness, child being, I accept it. But I love Adventure Time, I love the TV programme, I love the comics, and I love collecting the stuffed animals as well, because child! Volumes 4 and 5 are really good. Volume 4 is a little adventure with Finn, Jake, and the Ice King travelling through a dungeon that the Ice King and Hunson Abadir made. And then there's a little appearance from the Lich at the end. This one's just really fun. If you like the Ice King, you will love this. And it's just kind of very typical Adventure Time adventure, just having fun, with Finn and Jake being completely irresponsible and just wanting to dive in there and have fun, but, you know, at the end of the day, bravery and friendship save them all. I joke, but it's good. It's a really funny volume. Volume 5 I adored even more. This one has lots and lots of Princess Bubblegum and Marceline in it. And if you don't know, Marceline is my favourite character in Adventure Time. I love her. And basically, there's this creepy bubblegum monster that has taken over the entire Candy Kingdom, and Finn and Jake are kind of trying to work together until they end up being taken over by the gum itself, and then Bubblegum and Marceline have to save the day and work together, and it's brilliant, it's wonderful. This one is really cute, this one's really funny. A few people have complained that they're kind of doing too much fan service with the whole Bubblegum and Marceline thing, but it works, and you can kind of see that they're really cute together, even if it is just as friends, or something more, who knows. But either way, it's really cute, and it's nice to kind of see them interacting some more and get a proper, full, nice story together in the comics. So I really enjoyed this. And like I say, if you like the Adventure Time TV programs, definitely give the comics a go, because they really do capture the characters well. They have the same art style, they're both really funny. It's really hilarious. I properly laugh out loud when I read these comics. So, that's not embarrassing at all. But they are really good. Next up, while we are on the subject of comics and graphic novels, I want to talk a little bit about what have been kind of surprisingly some of my favourites this month. And if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen me mention this in my Instagram stories. But Batwoman. Seriously, right? So I started reading the Batwoman New 52 comics a while back, and I read volume 1, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. I didn't really know much about Batwoman before. I was like, I'll give her a go. Yeah, kind of cool, I like it. Volume 2, oh my god, they stepped it up. It was amazing, right? So volume 2 is titled, let me just check, To Drown the World, and volume 3 is World's Finest. They were amazing. The art is so creative. It's not just your typical they're superheroes and they're fighting and stuff. It's not just a typical superhero comic. There's some seriously cool artistic layouts and art styles and just amazing stuff in there. In volume 3, Batwoman actually teams up with Wonder Woman, so you get the amazing mix of the art style from the New 52 Wonder Woman comics with the Batwoman style, and I didn't think they were going to work at all, because they are quite different, art styles, drawing styles, but they do work so well together, and they're amazing, and just the pages are beautiful, the colours are beautiful, it works so well. In terms of story, basically, Medusa has kind of been trying to bring all these kind of myths and legends to life, and sometimes taking people like Killer Croc and turning him into a different monster. And there are people like Bloody Mary, and there's another woman who's like stealing children and things like that. And Batwoman's ultimate goal is to get the children back. And when she's really struggling, she calls on she calls on Wonder Woman, and they team up and fight Medusa and all the baddies together. And, you know, the story, it's pretty cool. Medusa as a villain is kind of amazing. I really liked how they drew her and how she was this kind of like quite menacing character, even though we didn't see her for too long. I liked a lot of the kind of bad characters in it. I thought it was really cool. The story wasn't hugely original. It wasn't the most shocking story. It wasn't the most unique story, but it worked well. And I think the reason for reading these books is for the characters and for the art, because they just kind of push it above and beyond the kind of average DC comic, and so I absolutely adored them and would thoroughly recommend them. Getting on to just general fiction books and stories now. This one is a little bit of a girly book, and I am still a little bit in shock by how much I love this series. But I picked up a random free book on Amazon. I think I saw it on through like a BookBub email at first, and then I got it for free, and I kind of fell in love with the series, and now I've bought all the books. So there's this author called Helen Harper, and she kind of does girly fantasy chick lit, right? Which is not normally my kind of thing at all. And she has this one series called, I think it's something like The Lazy Girl's Guide to Magic. And the first book is called Slouch Witch. And I read this quite a while back now, like a couple of months ago. And I recently got the second and third book in the series, Star Witch and Spirit Witch. I'm reading Spirit Witch at the minute. I read Star Witch earlier in March. And when I explain the premise, it's kind of embarrassing to admit that I read these, because they are kind of trashy chick lit, but they're also really, really, really addictive. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with reading easy, simple, fun books if you enjoy them, because not everything should be about hard work and, you know, trying to learn all the time and trying to expand your horizons all the time. Sometimes you just want to kick back with a fun book and just enjoy it, you know? So these books are set in Oxford in the UK, and which I love because I used to live there. And basically there's a whole order of witches working across the UK, and they are part of the order. And they have magical powers, and they use runes and things like that, and herb lore and things to cast magic spells. And it's about one witch, Ivy, who was kicked out of the order when she was like 18 or something for cheating, even though technically she wasn't cheating, it was someone else, and she took the blame for it. And then she punched him, and then, yeah, she got kicked out. And long story, she is actually a really, really talented witch, like naturally talented, like probably one of the best out there, but she kind of got disheartened at a young age, and now she just makes her money as a taxi driver, and she likes to pretend that she's all lazy and doesn't want to do hard work, and she kind of is. But at the same time, she has a really good heart and she means well, and when she kind of gets in an unfortunate situation and has to help out the order, she kind of steps up to the role, and it's really good. So in terms of story, basically they're trying to solve a mystery of this like missing magical artifact that's been stolen from inside the order headquarters. And yeah, I guess in some ways it's not really that unique or new or exciting, but it was way more developed than I expected it to be. This was like a proper serious crime novel, but with a witchy magic twist, you know? Normally with these kinds of books, it's just like, oh look, we've got magic and I'm a girl, and it's all about, is the girl gonna get with the guy? Not this one. This one had some really good, like, properly developed characters. It was genuinely really funny, and I kind of love Ivy's personality because I relate to her a lot. And the main male character, Winter, he's really cool, and in a lot of ways, I think I liked him because he reminded me of Dan, because, like, he knows Ivy's talented, and he knows he can look out for us, and she can look out for herself, but he still kind of wants to protect her, but, like, begrudgingly so, because he knows she's okay, you know? But it wasn't just like a mushy, ooh, will they, won't they storyline. There was like a serious crime story in there, and it was really well thought out, really well developed. There was like a hell of a lot of like politics going on behind the scenes, and they kind of brought that in, and it was really, really good. And it was the same in the second book, which was called Star Witch, and it, don't judge me, it took place on the set of like a magic-based TV reality show, and there were murders happening, and they had to go and find out what was happening, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's some really like dark, crazy magic. And again, it was a very, very well thought out crime story, but you know, with magic in there. It was good. I enjoyed them. So for some fun, nice, easy, light, not very serious reading that I could get a good giggle out of, I really like these books. Please don't judge me for being a massive girl. Speaking of crime stories, another book I read that I just quickly want to mention was one called Strawberries by, I'll tell you the author, Casey Barch? Yeah. This guy. This was just a kind of regular serial killer crime story taking place over America. It really caught my attention at first, actually, because the beginning kind of opening scenes caught me by surprise. It was an ordinary woman arguing with her family, coming home to her husband and child, being happy, and then all of a sudden you get one of the most brutal, out of the blue, disturbing murder scenes I have ever read in a book. It shocked me, and it was horrible, but also I was like, if this is the tone for the book, I'm interested. And I'll be honest, like, it was pretty good in terms of, you know, developing characters and things, and tying all these different characters' stories together. The serial killer himself was kind of like, he had so much potential. It was this guy who literally just went place to place across America, killing people in all these horrifically brutal ways, and the only kind of thing he left as a sign that it was him, the only like linking thread between them all, was that he drew a shape of a strawberry in blood at every crime scene, in the blood of his victims. And we even get a good backstory for the murderer. His backstory, the story of his childhood, is fantastic, but his motives for committing these actual murders right now just kind of falls flat, and it doesn't really live up to the hype, and it's just a bit like, it just feels a bit easy and a bit lazy, because ultimately it's like, oh, he's just killing everyone because he's a psychopath. Yeah, it just kind of didn't really live up to its potential, which was a real shame. The other thing that I thought was a little bit weird was there were these really, like, odd, subtle references to religion throughout the book, and it seems that everyone who was an atheist got killed, and everyone who, like, turned to religion at some point, or read a Bible, or who was really religious, they were all the good guys. And it was really weird, and it was kind of subtle, and I just thought it was a little bit unnecessary, and it just made me feel like the author kind of wanted to have this little agenda in there, but his publisher was like, nah, hold back, this isn't that kind of book. But he's like, I'm going to do it anyway. And it was kind of awkward. So, it was a weird book. I probably wouldn't completely recommend it, but I feel like the author definitely has a lot of potential. And some of those scenes were fantastic, but overall the story just didn't quite live up to its promise, which was a shame. Just to move on to non-fiction quickly, and kind of wrap this up a little bit, one of the last books I want to talk about is Jon Ronson's So You've Been Publicly Shamed. You guys might know if you've seen the most recent episode of the Here and How podcast, which I co-host with Thomas and Stephen, Holy Kool-Aid and Rationality Rules, and I'm a big, big fan of Jon Ronson, and I really like his books. I've read quite a few of them now. I think the first one of his I've read was The Psychopath Test, and it just kind of blew me away. I really liked it. So You've Been Publicly Shamed is one that I've actually tried to read a couple of times before, and I've loved every time I've got started, but just some things got in the way and stopped me finishing it, and I've never got past, like, the first 2 chapters, for I don't even know what reason. Yeah, just that happens sometimes. So I finally picked it up again this month, last month now, and I finished it, and it was wonderful, and it was really, really good. I also feel it was kind of really helpful for me to read it at this time, because I've been kind of, you know, having a little bit of an anxiety overload recently, and letting a couple of negative comments here and there just, like, really affect me more than they should do, because so many of you are lovely and kind and so supportive and so nice, but it just feels like for every, like, 30 nice comments, I get one kind of mean comment that just sticks with me a little bit too much, and somehow I let that one overshadow everything else. So this book kind of put into perspective how I can't let those things bother me so much and how ultimately when you feel bad about something, when people try and shame you for something online, it's only going to affect you as much as you let it, in a lot of cases, not all of them. So this was a book about, people who have been publicly shamed, and most of the time it's online via Twitter and the internet and social media. Other times it's by like national newspapers and stuff. But either way, it was a really, really interesting book, and really interesting to see how different people dealt with it, how some people just, accepted it and said, yeah, I did something wrong, and just managed to move on from it, and how some people let it ruin themselves and their future and their careers because they were kind of wallowing in it quite a bit. And the thing is, I completely understand how easy it is to do that. And so this book maybe gave me that push I needed to say, no, I'm not going to let one crappy negative comment get to me, because there's all these other people being really nice. And I know I'm not in the same situation, because in the ones in the book, everyone was being mean to them. Whereas with me, it's like, like I say, like 1 out of every 30. But yeah, it was useful. I think it was good to read it. And if you're a fan of Jon Ronson, I'd definitely give it a read. It's really, really interesting. If you're a fan of just kind of like politics and social issues, especially kind of social issues to do with the internet and how we deal with this kind of very public forum that we've got now, where everyone has a voice, and it is genuinely the people who shout the loudest who get heard the easiest. I definitely recommend this book. It's fantastic. As a random note, if you're still here and still watching this video for whatever reason, I'm going to throw in some TV recommendations as well, because me and Dan have been binge watching a lot of TV recently. My favourites have been The Good Place, which I've been watching on Netflix, which is about a woman who dies and she gets sent to the good place, not the bad place, even though she's been a terrible person, and so she feels really bad about it, and she has to try and hide the fact that she's a terrible person in her life, and she's trying to learn how to be a better person to fit in with the good place. It's absolutely hilarious. It's really, really funny. It's kind of quirky, and I would definitely recommend that. The other TV show that I really want to recommend is Santa Clarita Diet. The second season just came out on Netflix, and it is just as good as the first. It's so good. It's got Drew Barrymore in it, and basically her and her husband are estate agents in America, or like realtors, as you guys say, I think. And she wakes up one morning and she feels ill, and she starts vomiting all over a house she's trying to sell. And I mean, like, not just like bleh, but like bleh, like it's really bad. And it turns out she's a zombie, and so her family have to adapt to that. And again, it is hilarious, and it's so good. And it's such a binge-watchable program as well, and it's fantastic, and I love it. And I think it's very, very underrated and not talked about enough. So I want to just mention that and say, go watch it. And finally, what I started watching yesterday that Dan hasn't watched is on Amazon Prime. It's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's about a woman in like the late 50s in America, in New York, and her husband wants to be a stand-up comedian, so she's like there trying to support him and stuff, but he's a bit of a loser. And he ends up leaving her, and she kind of like goes a little bit off the rails and discovers she has this like natural talent for stand-up comedy, and she's kind of amazing. And I really recommend it. I went into it not really knowing what to expect, and it's a really, really funny program, and I really like it. And again, it's a long one, because it's like they're like 40-minute episodes, but they don't feel like 40-minute episodes. So again, it's very binge watchable and very enjoyable. I do like it. So this is one I'm very excited to introduce Dan to, because I watched a couple of episodes yesterday while he was at work, and so I figured if I was going to be sharing it with Dan, I might as well share it with you guys too. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts on all of the books and even all of the TV that I've mentioned. I know this is a little bit different this week, this month, because, throwing TV in there. But, let me know what you thought. If you guys have any book recommendations or TV recommendations, or hell, even music recommendations, leave them for me down below in the comments, because I love reading your guys' comments. I love getting recommendations from you. And I just think you all have great taste. I don't know why I just clapped then. I'm sorry. But anyway, I'm just going to stop talking now, because I am rambling. But if you have made it through this far, thank you so much for watching today. You guys are amazing and incredible and lovely. And hopefully I'll see you again soon. If you like this video and you want to hear me talk more about sciencey stuff, you can check out the Here and How podcast, which I host with Rationality Rules and Holy Kool-Aid. But for now, I just want to say an extra special thank you to everyone who is supporting me on Patreon this month. You guys are incredible. A special thank you goes out to Gambit and his Chauffeur, Mark Dauner, Eric Reid,